Okay, in professional. Welcome everyone to the Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025 Thurston County Planning Commission public hearing. The topic tonight is Thurston 2045 public hearing on the comprehensive plan periodic update. The purpose of the hearing tonight, we will hold a public hearing also the public
Agenda first.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Yeah, so first I guess we have to approve our agenda. So that then I can do that.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any comments or changes to the agenda? All in favor of the agenda?
Aye.
All opposed? Any introductions?
We have
Let's
anybody
do-
online?
Let's do introductions real quick. Starting over here with Commissioner Bartlett.
I am Commissioner Bartlett. I represent District 5, but I live in Tumwater.
Barry Halverson, District 2.
Eric Casino, I serve the planning commission at large, but I live in the Lacey UGA.
Devin Pestinger, District 5.
Daniel Bumberger, I live in and serve District 1.
Sandy Kaiser, I live in and serve District 3.
Scott Nelson, District 4.
And Joel Hanson serving District 3.
Do some staff intros.
Yeah, should we?
Commissioner
Yeah.
Fishburne's welcome.
Yeah.
Commissioner Fishburne, we just did introductions.
Timing.
Right.
We just did introductions, so you can introduce yourself, and then I think it's a good idea. Let's do staff intros too.
Bill Fishburne, serve and live in District 4.
So,
Ann Rodriguez, Associate Planner.
Maya Teeple, Senior Planner.
Derek Day, Community Planning Manager.
Ashley Rice, CPED Director, and just a note, I might have to put my prescription sunglasses on. I'm not trying to look cool, but I don't have any other prescription glasses with me.
Okay,
For the record.
according to our agenda, we're going to have public communication that is not part of the public hearing first. So if anyone in the audience wants to comment on a topic that is not the comprehensive plan, I guess this is your big chance. I don't see anyone in the room indicating such. Are we, can we see people online? Yes, that it's likely. No. Okay, no hands. Okay, then we will move back into this script where tonight we are having a public hearing on the topic of Thurston 2045, the comprehensive plan periodic update. The purpose of the hearing today is to hold a public hearing on the county's comprehensive plan periodic update. This is a hybrid public hearing. Those wishing to testify are here in person or have joined by Zoom. Written comments will be accepted through Sunday, April 27th until 11:59 p.m. If you wish to testify today, for those of you in person, please sign in on the sign-in sheet. And for those on Zoom, please indicate your interest in testifying by using the raise your hand option. If you are dialing in, press *9 to raise your hand, and the chair host will call your name and unmute you when it is your turn to speak. Let's see. Let's just take a poll here. We say in the script that we'll give people 3 minutes. I think we have 45 minutes available? Yeah, less than 20 online, and I see 6 or 8 people here in the room. What do we feel about giving folks 5 minutes?
I think that's at the discretion of the chair and it's something that I would support.
We discussed that in the previous meeting, as long as the attendance
Yeah,
accommodated it to.
I'm leaning towards giving people more time, but I just wanted to make sure that that feels good for everybody. Okay. Each person will have 5 minutes to testify. I will call the names for oral testimony. First, we'll start in the room and then we'll go to Zoom When you're hearing your name, please come forward to the podium. You may not give your time to another person. And when testifying, please provide your name and address for the record. And with that, I think we're ready. I'm gonna go get the sign-in sheet. Thank you.
Anna and I will give a short presentation first that just goes over the content of the public hearing. Thank you, commissioners. Maya Tiefel, Senior Planner with Thurston County Community Planning. Joined tonight by Anna Rodriguez, Associate Planner, and here in spirit, Amelia Schwartz. She's also been one of our main staff working on the comp plan, but she's at a conference tonight, so couldn't join us. So a little bit of background on Thurston 2045. So this is our brand name for our county comprehensive plan update. This is the periodic update. So it's the big one that happens every 10 years on the cycle as required by the Growth Management Act, RCW 3670A. And it plans for the next 20 years. So through the year 2045, we update things like population projections, policies, and the narrative plan. And it brings the plan in alignment with recent changes in state law. So anything that we weren't already doing that has recently happened in state law, there's a couple big ones like housing and climate. This is the chance that we have to do that. It also balances 14 planning goals that are in the Growth Management Act, things like property rights, environment, land use, shoreline, and climate. And this is what the plan does and balances all those needs. So the scope of Thurston 2045, this is an opportunity for our planning commission to discuss the entire plan. Again, the biggest changes in state law are mostly to reflect housing changes and climate changes. But there are no major updates to our economic development chapter and our health chapter. And even though those are not being updated at this time, if there are things that are related in those chapters to climate or housing, the planning commission thinks we might need to make tweaks to, this is an opportunity to do that to those policies. So there are a couple changes that are still being made and not yet reflected in the plan, in the public hearing draft that's available online and also in your binders tonight. The first is the chapter reordering. So at a previous work session, our planning commission made a decision and an action item for staff to reorder the chapters consistent with the numbering on the slide here. And we'll work on that. So the planning commission recommendation draft will reflect those reordered chapters. And then the second piece that's not reflected in the draft and is an ongoing conversation are the climate mitigation plan strategies. So the planning commission worked at our last work session on that, and we started and had some action items that we took away from that, but we're continuing that discussion. So after these public hearings, we'll bring back that crosswalk and continue working through those items on how we want to integrate them. So our outreach to date, we've had more than 30 community engagement efforts so far, and our lovely engagement E&O staff that are out in the lobby, they've done a lot of that legwork to do some of that engagement. Most of that has been attending events held by other organizations in the community, so showing up at their events. That's been hugely successful instead of holding our own and making people come to us. And we've also given a number of presentations to community groups like the Realtors Association, South Thurston Economic Development Council, CALO, a number of other external community groups. We've had 32 planning commission work sessions, not including tonight's public hearing. And we've also done a mailing notice on the Grand Mound specific changes. So that went out to every property in the UGA and also those within 1,000 feet of the UGA. We sent a letter in the mail about an online open house in this upcoming hearing. We also have story maps online that folks can click through if they want to learn more about the changes in our comp plan. So for tonight's hearing and for Saturday's hearing, we went through our standard noticing process. We had a legal notice in the Nisqually Valley News that was issued on April 3rd, consistent with our 20-day noticing requirements. We sent 2 web mails on April 3rd and April 17th. We had a press release issued on April 16th, and we did a Facebook post shortly after that legal notice on April 4th. We also boosted that Facebook post, so use that as our form of paid advertisement this time. We'll go through, Anna and I, a short summary of each of the chapters, just so the public's aware of the content. So for chapter one, this is mostly updated data and narrative. There are a couple of graphs that the planning commission requested be updated in this chapter that have not yet been changed in this public hearing draft, but know that I'm still working on that, so that's forthcoming. Chapter two, land use, we have updated data and narrative, new policies and information on water availability. There have been some small updates and policy changes to the military compatibility section. And we've had a couple land use designation updates for neighborhood convenience commercial and also for rural resource industrial, which were the recent planning commission discussions to limit that to only resource-based industries for industrial uses. Chapter three is our natural resources chapter, and again, updated data and narrative. We have a separate section that reflects the conservation tools and land use conflicts, just a little bit of reorganization there. And then goals and policies to update new conservation measures like conservation subdivisions or clusters, a new agricultural zone that the county could consider in the future, agricultural water rights banking, and then forest conservation. Anna.
Yes, chapter four, housing, it's a full repeal and replace, as you all are already familiar with. It has updated data and narrative, as well as housing projections broken down by income levels and land capacity analyses to review available lands to support affordable housing. This chapter also has an assessment of racially disparate impacts and changes to undo those impacts, and new goals and policies, including that 5% policy on rural growth. And chapter five has updated data and narrative as well. Multimodal level of service, forecast demands, and transportation improvements updated in this chapter. There's also a new active transportation component, as well as updates to mitigate greenhouse gases and vehicle miles traveled, as well as updated goals and policies. Chapter six, capital facilities, also has updated data and narrative and updated policy and goals. It also has updated references to county plans and updated levels of service and financial data. And then chapter seven, utilities, also updated data and narrative and some updated references to county plans. There's a new section on internet utilities after the planning commission provided guidance to incorporate that to this chapter as well as some narrative on development phasing in Grand Mound regarding water and sewer that's been added, as well as policies to reflect new and emerging issues, especially those pertaining to climate. Chapter nine, this is the chapter that Amelia has been handling, also has updated data and narrative. There's a new section that she added on rural forest canopy and open and green space corridors, as well as some policy updates, including a lot of new ones on forest resources, wildlife, and green spaces. And chapter 10, cultural resources, we did change the name to cultural resources. It was originally historic resources. Updated data narrative as with all of the chapters. Some policies have been revised so that they can be an active voice like with the rest of the comp plan, and some policy tie-ins for land use permitting and climate. So chapter 12, right now chapter 12, soon to be chapter 2, our climate chapter is brand new chapter in the comprehensive plan to meet the new requirements in state law and also reflect some local initiatives and some efforts that are ongoing in our community. It's our chapter on climate mitigation and resilience, and it has a lot of new data and narrative, some of the research we've done for the last couple of years. And there's also goals and policies that relate to every sector in this chapter for climate resiliency. So some of the climate stuff lives in other chapters, but it's also in chapter 12. And again, work continues on this chapter. So we expect to have several work sessions following the hearings to continue to address items in here. Just a summary of the appendices for the record. We've made some big changes in there. So Appendix A used to be our Thurston County History Appendix. That's been fully repealed and replaced with a technical appendix. And within that technical appendix is mostly housing information and transportation information. We also moved some of the data-heavy criteria from chapter 3, the natural resources chapter into there. Appendix B is our new implementation plan. That includes actions and metrics, ways for the county to measure how we're implementing our policies over the next couple of years and track our progress. That's intended to be kind of a living document that we can continue to update over the next couple of years and use as a tool to track how we're doing. Appendix C is our document appendix, and that's been updated to link out to things that are available online wherever possible. And then maps are updated across the plan to just reflect any new data that we have where it's available. Development regulations, I'll give a quick and dirty update on this. So there's a 100-page package of changes to the development regulations, but the big buckets of topics that have been changed in those, we've done a broad definition update. There are some military compatibility updates, including a new military influence area overlay that comes out of the South Sound Community Military Partnership recommendations, has things like a permit and plat notice, real estate disclosures, and baseline regulations on light emissions, specifically for commercial and multifamily uses in the rural area. There are several climate updates within our development regulations. These are really important for a lot of the climate initiatives moving forward. There's new electric vehicle infrastructure chapters to ensure that that can be permitted as a use in all the appropriate zones. There's a new chapter for solar energy systems that would allow for not only small scale, but large scale solar projects. And then there's a new chapter on alternative energy storage systems, which is battery energy storage right now, but in the future that could evolve to include hydro or wind, or there are other mechanisms. Battery's kind of the big one right now. And then the bulk of the changes are housing related. So I'll run through this list real quick. We have several changes to Grand Mound. There are two options kind of being considered right now by our planning commission and in this hearing tonight. One is a bump to the residential densities in Grand Mound, and then one would require housing in the commercial area of Grand Mound, but not bump the residential areas. And that's a change made to accommodate the needed housing within the Grand Mound urban growth area. There are changes to allow 2 accessory dwelling units within the Grand Mound UGA, and also permit manufactured homes within Lammerts. And then there are changes across all of our residential zoning to allow for permanent supportive housing and transitional housing as a use, provided they meet the underlying zoning and other regulations. There are some other changes that apply countywide. So we're making some changes that will streamline mobile home permitting. We're considering a density bonus for conservation subdivisions. So 2 pathways for density bonuses for those conservation resource-based subdivisions, and then allowing for rural accessory dwelling units, provided they're under a specific size and have a water hookup to the main unit. And then with that rural accessory dwelling unit allowance, we're removing the family member unit allowance. So a summary of public comments to date in the life cycle of the project. We've had over 600 public comments. The packet that was sent to you on Monday included comments only for this public hearing. Initially, that was about 14 when that was sent, or 13. We received several more new comments since then. We're up to 30 as of 4 p.m. today. And the major themes from the comments that we're receiving now for this public hearing, support limiting development and protecting our wildlife, supporting the action alternative, which is the less rural growth, 5% rural growth, and the new policies associated with that. A lot of support for climate related policies and a desire to see the TCMP strategies integrated properly. Requests that we plan and zone for areas within the UGAs and provide housing that's affordable to all. There are a couple of comments that are specific to the Grand Mound housing options. We've seen comments in support of both options right now. So there are some in support of bumping residential and some in support of the commercial component. And then again, the TCMP, there's been some continued comments requesting that that be incorporated into the plan. And again, for the public and for the record, that written comment period is open through Sunday, April 27th, 11:59 p.m. So if you haven't submitted a comment and you would still like to, you're welcome to do that at any point until Sunday. Ways to engage, you can visit our webpage, thurston2045.org. You can sign up for email updates on this project, and then commenting on the project, and all of these can be accessed through our thurston2045.org webpage. So that concludes our presentation, and I will stop sharing my screen and we can move to the public hearing.
Okay. Once again, we'll start in the room with the folks that have signed up to speak, and if we can arrange the timer, gives everybody 5 minutes to speak. That'd be great. And Maya, do I need to announce that we'll be opening and closing the public hearing tonight, and then opening and closing it again on Saturday? Is that something that I have to say in record, or did I just say it? Is that good enough?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's good.
Okay. Well, the first person signed up to speak is George John, and then after that will come Alex Tassani and Phyllis Farrell. So please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes to address.
George John, property located at Marvin Road Northeast and Columbia Way Northeast, and there's no address. Good afternoon, planning commissioners. My name is George John, and I work for Lakeside Industries. We are a family-owned company that was founded here in Washington over 70 years ago. As a longstanding enterprise and employer of this community, Lakeside Industries wants to thank the county, its staff, and its commissioners for all its hard work on the draft comp plan. Among other sites in the county, Lakeside Industries owns an undeveloped 40-acre property just outside the UGA boundary at Marvin Road Northeast and Columbia Way Northeast. The property is sandwiched between the Edgewater development and the Silver Hawk development, and is very well served by existing investments in sewer and transportation corridor infrastructure. As we reviewed the draft comp plan, we realized that our Marvin Road property could help meet some important needs for Lacey and Thurston County over this planning horizon. That is one of the reasons that we are so appreciative of the great work that you're all doing. We also really appreciate the staff's openness to conversation and engagement with us. Our concern with the draft comp plan is pretty technical, so I won't go into that detail now. However, to summarize the main takeaway, we are concerned that the draft comprehensive plan is unintentionally risking future confusion. This is because of a new RCW provision that was enacted in 2022, but has not yet been interpreted in detail. In our written comment to follow, we will suggest and request a specific half-sentence addition that we think would reduce the likelihood of such confusion. The suggested language will add clarity about the county's ability to adjust its urban growth boundaries when and if needed to advance Growth Management Act policy goals between now and the next periodic update. We think the clarity benefits the county and would not create any obligations or costs for the county or its planning team in the future. It would ensure that the comp plan is able to manage the county's UGAs consistent with the policy provided in this new RCW. We ask the commissioners and staff to consider this addition to the comp plan, which we will submit as a written comment to support this spoken comment. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next to the podium is Alex Tassani, followed by Phyllis Farrell and Tom Crawford. And apologies in advance if I mispronounce your names.
My name is Alex Tassani. I'm a student at North Thurston High School, and my address is 3506 Woodside Court Northeast, Olympia, Washington, 98506. I strongly support Objective 2.B and 2.C's focus on ensuring Thurston County's most vulnerable neighbors, people with disabilities, those exiting homelessness, and families in transitional care have a genuine path to safe, stable housing. By explicitly naming group homes, emergency shelters, and permanent supportive housing in policy 2.C.1, the plan moves beyond broad statements and into concrete zoning commitments that will remove confusing barriers for providers and residents alike. Policy 2.B.1's allowance for residential care facilities, including small group homes, through a streamlined special permit process is critical. It balances neighborhood compatibility through public review of services, parking, and infrastructure impacts with the urgent need to place care close to existing services. This approach also honors RCW standards when familial status ensuring group homes are unfairly singled out. Under policy 2.B.2, the county commits to active partnerships with social, housing, and health service organizations. Technical assistance and coordination for helping a nonprofit. Grant applications for connecting a shelter operator to design consultants will directly accelerate the creation of emergency and transitional beds. This isn't just nice to have, it's a lifeline for people on the brink. Policy 2.B.3's explicit support for nonprofit grant applications demonstrates the county's willingness to leverage every funding avenue, from HUD's continuum of care programs to state supportive housing grants. Letters of support, expedited staff reviews, and fee waivers can tip the balance for agencies struggling to stretch limited budgets. Policy 2.B.4 anchors the housing factor to Thurston County's existing homeless housing 5-year plan. By weaving those goals and action items into the broader plan, the county ensures continuity. Today's site to decisions connect directly to next year's outreach strategies and metrics for reducing chronic homelessness and formal zoning fees. Objective 2.C, anti-discrimination provisions, policy 2.C.2 are equally vital. Treating any structure occupied by persons with disabilities or group care for children the same as other family dwellings poses loopholes that has historically been used to deny reasonable accommodations. This is a clear review of exclusionary zoning. Policy 2.C.3's sweeping commitment to equity, protecting people regardless of race, color, religion, sex, natural organ, disability, economic status, or other arbitrary factors sets a high bar. It signals that Thurston County will not simply pay lip service to fair housing laws, but actively monitor and correct disparate outcomes. Education is a powerful tool. Policy 2.C.4's support for renter and landlord awareness programs can prevent evictions and discrimination before they happen. Workshops on fair housing rights, clear materials on reasonable modifications, and best practice guides for property managers will build community capacity to uphold the new equity standards. Taken together, all of these objectives create a coherent system: land use approval, partnerships and funding, plan alignment, and anti-discrimination and education. This holistic approach means that protective regulations don't sit on paper. They're backed by technical support, funding pathways, and enforcement tools. My hope is that the county measures success by more than just units built. Let's track reductions in complaints of discrimination, increases in the number of licensed group homes, and the pace at which supportive housing beds come online. These indicators will show whether lofty equity goals translate into lived improvements for Thurston County's special needs residents. In closing, adopting and fully resourcing policies 2.B and 2.C is not only the right moral choice, it's a legal imperative under both state and federal fair housing laws. I urge the Planning Commission to champion these measures in the final plan and to work with CPED to ensure timely code updates, fund allocations, and community outreach that bring these policies to life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next to the podium is Phyllis Farrell, followed by Tom Crawford and Loretta Sepinen.
Greetings, commissioners. My name is Phyllis Farrell and I live in the Sunwood Lakes neighborhood in unincorporated Thurston County. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight on behalf of the South Sound Sierra Club group, representing approximately 2,400 members. The Sierra Club members applaud your hard work and effort to update the county's plan to create a sustainable community for citizens and the natural environment. We believe it is a huge responsibility and duty to adopt a comprehensive plan and development regulations that reduce greenhouse gas emissions in accordance with the approved Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. All relevant TCMP action should be fully included in the plan, and we have an obligation to have those actions included and fully implemented. Actions to increase energy efficiency and reduce emissions in commercial and residential buildings should be adequate and implemented to meet the established climate goals. Transportation policies should aim to reduce overall emissions, promote and expand transit in the urban and UGAs, electrify as much as possible, and provide for more cycling and walking. Policies for incentives for affordable housing that benefit both residents and developers are needed. 95% of future housing should be in the urban and UGA areas where there are employment opportunities, services, and facilities. The plan should include provisions for resiliency for projected climate change impacts such as extreme heat, more intense storms, flooding, sea level rise, and wildfires. We recommend the action alternative of less rural growth, focusing growth in existing urban and urban growth areas that have available facilities and services. And we support the inclusion of that in the draft plan. We support 5% rural growth recommendations from the Sustainable Thurston Report to preserve farmland and to protect agriculture operations and rural character, which was a high priority in the county survey. Attached ADUs should be allowed as part of rural growth, but not detached ADUs, which would increase impervious surfaces and draw more water. Rural growth should be limited for water availability reasons, to preserve agriculture and forest lands, and to minimize rural transportation emissions. Agriculture water rights should not be transferred for rural residential development, and rural resource industrial zones should be limited to enterprising supporting agriculture and forestry. The Sierra Club believes proper management of water is essential so that present and future generations may survive and flourish. Water conservation will be necessary to provide for the expected population increase. It is necessary the county adopt really strong water management policies and actions. We commend the staff on the updated implementation for water quantity, quality, and stream flow restoration. These actions reflect input from the public advocating for the inclusion of the Thurston County Mitigation Plan actions. Implementation Plan Land Use 18 to develop an integrated water resources management plan addresses several of the TCMP suggested actions. However, as I previously testified, we recommend the use of specific action verbs in the TCMP actions. Implementation Plan Land Use 15 to establish a voluntary well monitoring program. Considering the importance of wise use of available water and the need to really ascertain actual usage of water, we suggest installation of water meters on all permit exempt wells to better assess water usage and remaining availability. Data needed to inform decisions about future water usage as well as growth and development. Let's do this before a crisis and the need for stringent water restrictions, which would need to be fair. If limits were to be placed in households, all wells would need to be metered. We also suggest the inclusion of TCMP actions, reuse, and the use of gray water in new residential and commercial buildings. And finally, we want to emphasize the urgency in addressing climate change and the county's leadership role in reducing emissions and planning for a resilient community. We are deeply appreciative of the work and commitment of commission members and staff in this challenging task. The future well-being of our community is at stake, and we really thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Next up to speak is Tom Crawford, followed by Loretta Sepinen and Paris McCluskey.
Good evening, members of the commission and staff. I'll be with you here this evening. My name is Tom Crawford. I live in the Carolina Beach neighborhood in unincorporated Thurston County. And I'd like to start out my comments with a few thoughts about democracy. I think I've mentioned this in the past in a previous commission meeting, but it just occurs to me, and I think it's coming to the fore even more these days with some of the things that are going on in our nation's capital, national political level. There are real threats to our ability to speak out, speak our mind, and talk about things like climate change, and to be honest and frank about it, right? And to tell the truth. And so I want to, yes, congratulate staff and commission for the really hard work you're doing, but also I think it's becoming increasingly obvious that this kind of work is courageous and will be courageous as we go forward in our current political environment. So this is a way in which we, I think, without really thinking about it a whole lot, but we in fact are standing up to those who don't want to hear the truth, who don't want to hear about actions that are necessary to ensure our future and the future of our children and grandchildren. So I just want to say a little bit about that. Secondly, so I'm here primarily to, as you might guess from previous interactions, primarily to talk about the climate chapter. I'm very much appreciative of under the commission's direction, staff's commitment to place the climate chapter really up front in the comprehensive plan because it influences so much of the rest of the things that we need to do in this county. I also need to say that, so we, staff and I as a board member of Thurston Climate Action Team have been the last few days going through a very detailed analysis based on the crosswalk that staff has very wonderfully provided to help us understand the relationship between the current draft and help the commission understand the relationship between the current draft of the comprehensive plan and the actions contained in the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. And so we will be providing you that detailed work in the next day or so. And I hope that will be helpful. And that will include suggestions or recommendations for either language changes or new language in the comprehensive plan. And we're particularly focusing on the implementation plan section of the comprehensive plan, because we guess that that's likely to have the greatest impact on what the county does and policies the county adopts and enforces and so forth. So that's why we're focusing on that. And in some cases, we might say, yes, this is a great policy statement. Let's also put that in the implementation plan, right? So we're being perhaps a little pedantic about it, but it's for a reason. And we think it's a good reason. Finally, I'd like to just say that we view the actions in the climate mitigation plan as very good and necessary actions, but we also view them as foundational. In other words, it's just the start of helping us to think about and get on the ground and start to work at the kinds of things that need to be done in order to meet the goals of the climate mitigation plan, which are very important goals, very aggressive goals, but they're critical for, as I said, our future and our ability to continue to have a decent place to live and a decent way of life, not only here, but for people all around the world. So thank you again for your time and appreciate your hard work and attention to this. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up to speak is Loretta Sepinen, followed by Paris McCluskey and Russ Saders, I think it says.
Hello, Planning Commission, I appreciate that we have this week to give you our last input to make sure that the comp plan, the implementation plan, and the development code all really reflect the vision we have as a community. I'm gonna make 7 requests. 5 of these are to act with more urgency, to speed up. 1 is the opposite, to slow down on one of the proposals. And one I'm gonna ask for is a 180, to say no instead of okay on one of the proposals. So let me start with the 180. I ask you to remove that proposal that would allow detached ADUs in the rural area. We already allow attached ADUs throughout the rural area, and that process can meet the family housing needs that many people have brought up as a reason for ADUs in the rural area. We also have farm worker housing allowed. Detached ADUs are best for Tenino, Rainier, Grand Mound, but not in. Okay, let me start on where to speed up. And the first 4 of these are straight into the implementation plan. Water conservation. We need to change to put water conservation work on the short-term actions. Right now, it's kind of hidden in the implementation plan under CL 17 and CL 18, and it's set to start action in 2030. Please speed that up. Water for agriculture. The comp plan has long had a policy for better water protection for agricultural use, no action. We need a water for ag docket item in the implementation plan, and we need to start next year. Climate action change. We need to speed that up, and an example I will use is we've already picked off some items in the Thurston climate mitigation plan and put them propose them for code changes. Pick up more of them, especially ones related to buildings, whether residential or commercial. Pick them up, put them into a development docket item for this coming year. Or make the code changes right away. The next item is related to pretty complex issue, reducing housing capacity in the rural area. We truly are heading, because we're not making the changes we need to, we are heading towards 13 to 14% of new housing next decade is going to be in the rural area. It is not going to be the 5% goal. It's too easy for people with wealth to build in the rural area. The work we're doing right now, and we are doing work, it's too slow and it's too small. So I want you to change the implementation plan item that's under the housing section called H17 and move that action from a 2030 startup to a docket item this coming year. Okay, let me switch to the last item, which goes into the development code. The last item to speed up. In the development code, this is encroaching on prime agriculture soils, our best soils. We have policies and we have code language that says don't develop on prime soils. It varies from one kind of zone to another kind of zone, and some zones don't have any language. Put a docket item to strengthen that, make it stronger. And if somebody decides that they really have to, it's unavoidable to develop on prime soils, let's have a mitigation, some mitigation action. Okay, slow down. And I'm running out of time, but this is a tough one too. And it has to do with those cluster developments. I think we inadvertently got ourselves into going too far. We're adding to our current ability to cluster housing in the rural area so that we can conserve land, a very good goal. Clustering, you would have 6 houses per acre in your cluster. 6 houses per acre is the urban density. Right now, the clustering is 2 houses per acre. A lot of people think that's too dense, but 2 houses per acre is what we allow right now. Let's just go back and look at, put this development, take it off the development code and put this back to reconsider it, to spend a little bit more talking time. You didn't spend very much time on this. Spend a little bit more talking time and make it really work, where you're getting the gain that you want, more land protected, and people get a bonus, but not going all the way up to 6 houses per acre in the rural area. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you've got time on your agenda in the month of May to really take in all of the input for the people online and people here to make this the plan that we really want to have. Thank you.
Thank you, Loretta. Next up is Paris McCluskey. After that, Russ Saders, and I will grab the additional sign-up sheet in the back of the room after that.
All right, thanks so much. My name is Paris McCluskey. I'm the community organizer at Thurston Climate Action Team.
I live in Northeast Olympia. Actually, I'm technically unincorporated, but my address is Olympia. I'm like in the southern portion of the Johnson Peninsula. So first of all, I'd like to thank the Planning Commission and planning staff. The climate draft of the comp plan is a great guiding document for climate resilience and mitigation in Thurston County. Also, thank you all for working with TCAT back and forth over these last several months to incorporate the actions in the TCMP, the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. And yeah, I know that that work is ongoing, and we appreciate that you all are working back and forth with us on that. So we would like you to adopt a comprehensive plan and development regulations that reduce greenhouse gas pollution consistent with the approved Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. There are 72 actions from the TCMP. We expect that all of those actions, 65 to be precise, that are relevant to a rural area will be added to the comprehensive plan. These actions can be found on Chapter 5, pages 74 through 100 of the TCMP. Use strong actionable verbs in the climate change section of the implementation plan for the comprehensive plan that are consistent with the actions in the TCMP. Thurston County needs to adopt the action alternative 5% rural growth over the next 20 years, the less rural growth policy proposed in the SEIS. This alternative will focus growth in existing urban growth areas and cities and towns where more affordable housing can be built, where existing public facilities and services save money for taxpayers and ratepayers, where fewer working farms and forests will be converted to low density sprawl, where there will be less adverse impacts on salmon habitats, prairie, and forest ecosystems. Adopt policies and regulations for a more resilient Thurston County, protecting people and property from sea level rise, extreme heat, more intense storms, droughts, and wildfires. And I should also say that there's really good policies and actions for climate resilience in the draft as it stands right now, and definitely appreciate that. Make sure that density and energy efficiency improvements in homes and businesses are combined with policies that keep housing affordable for all existing and future residents of Thurston County. This is just to safeguard against green gentrification, where if you make a lot of improvements, it drives people out based on their income level. So really, whatever mechanisms you can put in place to make sure people can stay in their homes and their neighborhoods and not get pushed out by gentrification if buildings do improve. And of course, for climate mitigation, we want them to improve. So yeah, that's it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chris. Next signed up to speak is Russ Saders. Apologies if I'm getting that last name wrong.
Pretty close. My name is Russ Saders, and the property that I am here to comment that we own is at 9011 193rd, which is in the Grand Mound urban growth area. It's an industrial property, and the company I represent, Conco, owns and manages a reinforcing steel facility there where we produce reinforcing steel for commercial projects. And the south edge of our property fronts the commercial arterial property. There's a large area there that's undeveloped of commercial arterial property. And with the option number 2, which in my opinion, I'm opposed to it, would put dense residential housing on that property in the future would be a requirement. And I understand the need for more housing. I mean, we need places for people to live that are affordable. But it seems to me that increasing the density of properties that are already zoned for residential makes more sense. If they made a residential, a high-density residential component to the remainder of the undeveloped commercial arterial property there in the Grand Mound area. I don't see that the businesses, you won't have any more commercial development beyond what's there because can't make a commercial development work for a business if you've got to put high-density residential housing component on that property. And I think that would really change the future of Grand Mound if that development that's happening there now and the changes we've seen in the last decade since the overpass and the exchange there was all improved. They're getting more businesses because people are coming off of I-5. And I think that the future there with the hotel and the distillery and the restaurant, that type of development will come to an end because no one's going to be able to make the development work if they've got to put high density housing on the property in addition to the commercial development. So I think the option one is the best of the two for sure, because we need more housing, but option two, I think would certainly change the future of Grand Mound. And for us, it would put apartment buildings immediately adjacent an industrial facility that we've had there for decades at this point. And unfortunately, I don't know that we would be good neighbors for an apartment building right next to us. I certainly would want a rebar facility right across my fence if I was moving into an apartment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The last person I have on the list to speak in the room is Betsy Norton.
I just want to make a brief comment. My name is Betsy Norton. I live in Olympia. And I'm speaking on behalf of Black Hills Audubon Society Conservation Committee. I just want to let you know, we are working on comments that we're sending to you. They're not ready yet. But we fully support TCAT's emphasis on actually doing something about climate change in the near term, not the term. And we will, our written comments will include items in other chapters besides the climate change chapter that fully integrate some of the climate change considerations into some of the other policies and actions that you want to do, because I think they're kind of missing from some of those. We'll also touch on aquaculture some because we have some information about environmental impacts from that. And we will be including environmental equity concerns, similar to what he's expressing about putting a lot of density low-income housing right next to industrial developments. And we'll also be, let me see, I would just wanted to note for you, in case you didn't notice this, that the state legislature just passed a transit-oriented development bill. And I'd like to think about that in terms of the transportation factor and what might be possible in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That was the last person I had signed up to speak in the room. Is there anyone else in the room that wishes to speak but didn't get a chance yet? Okay. So we will transition to the public that wishes to testify via Zoom or online. And if you wish to give comment on the comp plan, please indicate that by raising your hand on the Zoom, and we will work our way down the list. And for some reason, I cannot read any of the names at this distance, so somebody else.
It's the angle, it's only glaring.
Okay. So somebody else will have to do that part.
So we have Rita Robinson, who's been waiting the longest.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead and unmute when you're ready, Rita.
Hi, my name is Rita Robinson. I live in Tumwater. I urge the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners to do a better job in protecting rural areas and conserving resource lands. Although the county has adopted some good policies, even award-winning one, it often falls short in those two areas, especially for agricultural lands. I developed an interest in land use planning in the 1970s as a member of the League of Women Voters. Due to this interest, I was appointed to the County Board of Adjustment and the Planning Commission. Later, I was fortunate to work for the Department of Commerce and Growth Management as a planner. I reviewed the first comprehensive plan developed by Thurston County. The state's review indicated the urban growth areas in the draft plan were too large. We met with the county planner who said that the county commissioners were going to let the cities have the size of urban growth areas that they wanted. The UGA for Lacey wasn't properly sized. We can see today the results of urban sprawl that is occurring there. The county needs stronger policies and language in its comprehensive lands for protecting rural areas. The plan says, based on historic development patterns, it is likely that about 12% of populated growth will take place in rural parts of the county. By working with the cities and using various strategies, the counties can promote more growth in the urban areas and less in the rural areas. The county needs to state specifically how it is going to reduce development in the rural areas. It's a difficult task due to pressures from developers and the need for more housing. In the county supplemental environmental impact statement, the action alternative, less rural growth, projects 5% growth with 2,700 more rural units over the next 20 years. Please recommend this alternative to the county commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Rita. We'll get back to our list here and see who's next. No worries. Okay. Read that? I can't.
Kyle Davidson.
Kyle Davidson. Okay, next to speak is Kyle Davidson. Danielson, sorry.
Kyler.
Kyler.
We're all just
Okay.
barely able to see these.
Okay. What Derek said. And thank you for bearing with us there.
No worries. I'm Kyler Danielson. I am the land use project manager for Lakeside Industries. As George John mentioned, we have mining and asphalt uses in several locations throughout the county. I'm here today commenting specifically on the mineral resources aspect of the comprehensive plan. And thank you for the opportunity to comment. I want to express appreciation to the county for the language in the comprehensive plan that supports resource-based uses, specifically mineral resources and their associated operations. These operations are integral to future county infrastructure and development, and we hope that the county will continue to support these uses. Maya Teeple mentioned earlier in the meeting that there are some changes that might still be made on the comprehensive plan before it is eventually voted on. So my comment is focused on mostly asking that you please provide at least another opportunity to comment on those final changes that we don't currently have available in case there's anything that needs to be commented on. And besides that, just thank you for the opportunity to comment today.
Very much. And someone at that end of the table would tell me who's next.
No other hands are up.
Okay. Okay.
5 minutes works. Might want to ask them if they want to raise their hand.
Yeah, is there anyone else online that wishes to address the planning commission? Please indicate that by utilizing the raise hand function. Okay. I'm not seeing any further hands. However, we have to keep the public hearing open. To
We have to
continue the
stay
hearing
at
on
the-
Saturday, I'm just gonna adjourn the meeting.
Close the hearing.
Did I have to close the hearing? Okay, all right, well, I hereby close the public hearing with my razzleberry,
Razzle gavel.
It's
razzleberry, I'm just saying.
And anything for the good of the order that we haven't covered in the last 2 hours. Okay, terrific. Having no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Oh, thank you.